Welcome back, folks, to part 5 of the 2020 MMA Prospects video series featuring the light heavyweights. Disclaimers, of course, the fighters we're going to talk about in this video, there's 20. They're in no particular order. They're not ranked. And there may be other prospects out there that are better, but these are 20 guys I'd like to talk about. There was a bunch of great guys that just didn't make the list for various reasons, but that's not to say this is the 20 best. The rules, of course, if you're not familiar with my channel, no UFC experience, no Contender Series experience, no Tough experience, no Bellator, no PFL. You won't see any big names from any organizations like Risen or ONE FC. Very rare to see fighters from those divisions or those promotions. And I don't talk about fighters that were previously mentioned on the channel. Some fun facts about today's video. The combined record of the fighters in today's video is 154 wins against only 3 losses. And we have fighters from 10 different countries. Check out, of course, in all my videos, you will see links to fighter highlights and fights of every fighter in this video in the description below. You'll also see links to my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram account. So please hit me up. And if you like the video and you want to support these fighters, please subscribe and hit the like button. Very much appreciated. Again, I'm very happy with this video. The light heavyweight division along with the heavyweight division are not as stacked as some of the other divisions like the welterweights, lightweights, the featherweights, etc. So it's nice to see a pretty broad mix of fighters in this division. We're going to try to not spend a lot of time on each fighter. We're going to try to get it to within under an hour. So some guys are going to speed through fairly quick, and some guys I will talk a little bit more about. So without further ado, let's get started. The first fighter we're going to talk about, going back to Russia, we know there's a plethora of prospects out of that country. Dagestan, Muslim Magomedov, 25 years old, 6 feet, 205 pounds, 7 wins, no losses, 3 knockouts, and 1 submission. Academy MMA, good size, talented camp. Look at his record, some key wins. He's beat Bellator veteran Carlos Eduardo, who's 19-5. 8-2 Ilya Shevchenko. And he's got a TKO win over tough UFC vet Chris Camozzi. That's not easy to do. He's also beat 11-1 beast Asylzhan Bakhytzhanuly, who we're going to talk about later. And also a good amateur career, which we're seeing from a lot of Russians nowadays. Check out his video below for... check out the section below for his victory over Camozzi. You'll also see another victory over Shevchenko and Uzlak. So, some cool highlights there. A real great fighter to start this video off with. From the outside looking in, he doesn't look the part of an excellent light heavyweight. He's small, a little soft in the build area. But at this point in his career, he starts his fights off at a slow pace, and he really ramps it up in the rounds 2 and 3. Wrestling all day. Great takedowns. He mixes in slams. He really grinds and exhausts his opponents. Great transitions on the floor. Great clinch control. Dirty boxing. And he uses the fence effectively. Very relentless. He does actually have good, quick hands. He throws hard punches, particularly that overhand right. He's got a good gas tank. And again, he really tires out opponents. Very effective with his hard elbows and ground and pounding from the top position on the ground. And again, also a very successful amateur career. Like a lot of Russians you're seeing nowadays, it makes a huge difference by the time these guys turn pro. He's an excellent fighter, and I'm really looking forward to see how far this guy goes. He's fighting in the ACA, which he will definitely get tough fights. But nonetheless, this is a guy you could see on a big stage with a few more wins. Moving on, the second fighter we're going to talk about, Hasan Mezhiev. Fighting out of Latvia, 27 years old, 6'3", 205 pounds. He's also fought at heavyweight, I believe. 11 wins, no losses, 4 TKO, 6 submissions. Nicest victory was probably over in his pro debut over 12-9 Raka Stamburkas. The rest of his opponents have losing records, or for the most part don't have a large number of fights. I think I come up with 3 or 4 videos in the description below, so check him out. He's a big, strong, light heavyweight. And again, fought at heavyweight before. 2-time Latvian Pancration champ, I believe. That's at a minimum. Very good grappling, submission capabilities, smothering offensively on the ground, and transitions very well. His takedown defense looks pretty good. His last 3 wins are by TKO, so that area of his game is improving. 10 finishes in 11 fights. At this division, that's a very attractive record to have. He's very athletic, and he appears to have pretty good jiu-jitsu, along with some very nice submission victories. So haven't seen much of a stand-up game. That might be an area that needs to work on, but again, I haven't seen a whole lot of it. And he hasn't really fought that upper level competition, so it'd be interesting to see when he steps in there with some tougher guys. And no doubt, with his size and his division and his unbeaten record, this guy will most definitely get a look from a big organization. Hopefully this video will help out Hansen Mazziev, so take a watch out for him, folks. Next on the list, moving to Germany, Timo Feucht, 24 years old, 6'3", 205 pounds, 8 wins, 1 loss, 4 knockouts, 4 submissions. All-Stars Training Center, large camp with the likes of Alice Gustafsson and Latifi. Key wins his destruction over his big TKO destruction victory over UFC vet Jeremy Kimball. Great win. Other opponents, again, lower records, losing records. I think I have 3 or 4 videos of him in the section below. Athletic, strong, big light heavyweight. Fights at a high pace, and he finishes fights, as shown with his 8 victories, all coming by stoppage. Again, he walks through Jeremy Kimball, UFC veteran, which really, that fight put him on this list. Fast and comfortable on his feet, and he does have pretty quick hands, and he punches hard as well. He can beat you both with strikes and submissions, as shown. 4 victories by TKO and 4 by submission. The big question is his wrestling. And his only loss was against, he was out-grappled badly by UFC fighter Clayson Abreu, who I'm a real fan of as well. It was a real tough fight. But Timo has a great chance to improve. And certainly, in this division, a guy like him that's exciting to watch, if he can short out wrestling a bit, either way, I'd say this guy got a chance to get some big fights and hopefully get signed by a big promotion someday. He's fighting in the Octagon right now. That's OK Octagon in Croatia, I believe. Croatia and Czechoslovakia. And they put on big shows. But nonetheless, an interesting prospect. And I look forward to seeing more of him. Next on the list. And please forgive me for the pronunciation. Asylzhan Bakhytzhanuly. Fighting out of Kazakhstan. Let me say right at the back, folks. If you're not familiar with it, Kazakhstan is starting to pump out a lot of great fighters. That part of the world now, there's more promotion, more opportunity, so there's a great amount of fighters coming out of Kazakhstan. Alash Pride is his fight club, great club for talent. 11 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, 9 TKO victories. This guy just turned 30, so right now is his time. 6'2", 205 pounds. Key wins, 13-7 Muslim Magomedov, 12-4 Alexei Kisser, 17-3 Beast Mustafa Radazov, and check out his fights. I put 3 or 4 great fights from the ACA organization, most of them. And you see some real aggressive knockouts from this guy. He's a beast. And he's really flying under the radar. Again, I mentioned the great fighters coming out of Kazakhstan, but this guy finishes fights. 9 knockouts out of 11 fights. Relatively unknown for the casual fan. And of course, for this division, he has a very impressive record. He moves forward with power. He's kind of a bit of a brawler. And he throws a high volume of punches, so that's something you could probably tighten up a little bit. 6 first-round knockouts. So this guy likes to get it done quick. Always dangerous, and he does have good wrestling, good ground and pound, hard elbows. I don't know much about his submission game because I haven't seen this guy try a whole lot of submissions. He's mostly in there with bad intentions with the hands and the kicks. His only loss was the previously mentioned beast Muslim Magomedov in the fight where he was out-wrestled, but he went the distance. He was submitted in that fight. But at 11-1 with 9 knockouts in the light heavyweight division, both the UFC and Bellator would be just chomping at the bit to get this guy signed. So I'd love to see him get an opportunity while he's pretty much in his prime right now at the age of 30. Guy to watch out for sure. Okay, next on the list. So this video is going to have a couple of caveats, and this is the first one. The next guy we're talking about is Ibo Aslan, who was signed to the UFC, I believe, yesterday. But again, I was making this video, so we kept him on the list. Fighting out of Austria. I believe he's signed by the UFC. I don't have an official word on that. 6'2", 205, 23 years old. Fights at a Gym 23. Trains with the likes of Alexander Ratchik, who's another beast. 8-0 with 8 knockouts. Key wins, I'd say probably the keyest win would be over 4-2 Robert Valentin. The rest of his opponents, very low level, low competition, most with very bad losing records. However, for him in his part of the world, he just couldn't find those fights at this part of his career. But a couple of good videos of him below. He's a real big monster at light heavyweight. He's young. 7 first-round knockouts. He likes to get it done quick. Pretty decent ground and pound. Again, very, very untested. There's not a ton of footage on him. Not a lot to go off of, but he does punch hard. He almost seems like he's punching with his a lot of arm punches. It doesn't use his shoulder. Of course, most of the power is coming from your hips. But once this guy gets going, or if he gets moving on to the UFC and gets some good trainers, he could potentially be a pretty good beast. And he's still very young and powerful. Again, with his fight stoppage record, certainly interested to see where he can go. And he's still only 23, so he's an interested signee for the UFC if in fact he did sign. And looking forward to seeing him in there with some of the big boys. Next on the list, this is our second caveat. Alex Polizzi. I believe Alex was just signed by Bellator while I was making this video as well. Again, this video is unique in this channel. It does have a couple of caveats, but these guys are on the list and I want to include them just in case they aren't signed. Give them the extra exposure. Alex is 28, fighting in the USA, 6 feet 205, 6 wins, no losses. Very successful amateur career as well. 3 knockouts, 3 submissions. He finishes fights. Chosen few gyms where he trains. Key wins, 7-3 Jamal Pogies, who's a Dana White Contender Series and Bellator veteran. UFC Dana White Contender Series vet Daniel Jolly. Destruction of both those guys. You see a couple of videos below, including an interview after he won the LFA, or leading into that LFA main event where he won the title. Wrestling all day. This guy wrestled since he was a young kid, somewhere around the age of 10. NCAA, his unofficial record was 73-45 from 2010 to 2015. Wrestled at 197. Recent LFA champ. Again, I had to add this guy just on his wrestling alone, and he has some pretty ferocious elbows and ground and pound. Very physically strong guy, takedowns and slams, and I've seen him fight much bigger men and just manhandles them. His stand-up game and his technical game, that would be, if you know, from the outside looking in, that would be an area that he would want to improve on. But he's got that equalized with the wrestling, man. So if he can tighten up that striking a bit to go along with his powerful wrestling, he's a beast. And he's been dominant in both professional and amateur. So it'll be interesting to see where this guy goes. If he is signed with Bellator, hey, he'd be a good challenge for a lot of the guys in that organization. Next on the list, relatively unknown but a beast in his own right, Nasrudin Nasrudinov. Fights out of Russia, 8-0, 3 knockouts, 1 submission. 28 years of age, 6 feet 205. It's a smaller light heavyweight. He has fought at middleweight before, I believe. Key wins. He's got a victory over tough and UFC veteran Corey Hendricks. Destruction of 15-4 tough Mexican Jorge Gonzalez. And 5-1 Razio Spixlav. Couple of really good videos of him. Check out him against Gonzalez in the section below. Again, cuts very little weight at 205. And in the future, if he gets to a bigger motion, I really see this guy going to middleweight. He grinds out victories. Hard, fast punches. Fights really well on the inside, particularly with that uppercut. Nice low kick. And he does have a good high kick from time to time. He's got a pretty good fight IQ, this guy. Again, he uses his wrestling from time to time to get opponents on the ground to a compromised position, and he utilizes the ground and pound to finish opponents. Well-rounded fighter with little exposure. Again, in the ACA promotion now, we're going to talk 4 or 5 guys in this video alone that are in the same organization. So those guys are going to end up fighting each other. But nonetheless, Nasrudin is a tough guy with a great amateur record as well, and could see him on a bigger stage at some point. Next on the list, and this guy to a lot of fans will be unknown. I really like him. Bogdan Guskov, fighting out of Uzbekistan, 6'2", 205, 27 years old, 10 wins, 1 loss, 8 knockouts, 2 submissions. Gore MMA is his association. Key wins, 13-4 Erslan to Uzbekov, 9-6 Sergey Glazkov, and 6-3 Ali Linzen. Got 4 videos below, all ferocious knockouts. This guy finishes fights, action-packed is the best way to describe him. 7 first-round knockout finishes, 7 finishes, sorry. And all 10, of course, of his fights have come, all 10 of his wins come via stoppage. This guy comes to fight, bit of a brawler. He throws hands all day, kicks non-stop, very high volume. He can wrestle as well, and also has shown his submission skills. I've seen him submit a guy off his back with a triangle. Big KO power, and has KO'd lots of opponents. Good hands and good ground and pound. To not only ground and pound in that, including with fists, but also elbows. He's an exciting fighter to watch, and like to see this guy get picked up. Win or lose, he's going to put on an entertaining fight, and he'd be a nice fit in any promotions, light heavyweight division, Bellator, UFC, PFL, Rizin, 1FC, you name it. So hopefully this guy gets a shot while he's just starting to get into his prime at 27. Next on the list, this is our last caveat of the video. This guy is an absolute beast, Azamat Murzakanov. Now, believe he was signed by the UFC a couple of years ago, but he failed a drug test. So he's on a 2-year suspension. He's back now, fighting not for the UFC. Here's the deal. I'm totally against steroids, especially in this sport. I don't know this. I didn't dig deep in the story, but I am the kind of guy that first of all, this sport is different than any other sport. It's the same as boxing when you can physically really hurt somebody. So I don't know the background to it, but I'm also a guy that doesn't like to kick a guy when he's down. And this guy is such a talent. If he's back and he's clean, and I think he deserves a shot, another shot. He's 30 years old. He's in his prime. 5'10" or 5'11", 205, 9 wins, no losses, 6 knockouts, 1 submission. Russian Judo Warrior Tribe. Key wins 13-4, Muhammad Fakandin. UFC vet and Glory Kickboxing vet, Tuata Isente. 19-4, Andre Muniz, who's a UFC fighter now. Check out his video section. I'm telling you, this guy's a beast. Brave FC KHK Openweight Division Championship. Powerful puncher. Southpaw. Got a beast of an overhand right, KO power, quick. He's fought at both heavyweight and lightweight. Dangerous fighter for probably anybody in the lightweight division. I'm serious. Very light in his feet, well-rounded fighter. Finishes most opponents by TKO, but he can submit you. Big slams, powerful ground and pound. Again, mentioned that deadly left. He got a big kick, both low and high. Combat Sambo background, judo background. And I believe if you check out it's called hand-to-hand combat, Absolute World Cup hand-to-hand combat. He won the 2013 World Championship, the Europe Champ in 14, Asia Champ in 13, World Cup in 2014. A 5-time Russian champ. You can see him just utter destruction of Ion Kutlaba of the UFC. So if you think Ion Kutlaba's got a good chin, check his fight out against this guy in the hand-to-hand combat. You'll find it on YouTube. I believe I attached it here in the video section below. You also see him just a destruction victory over Rico Rodriguez. Of course, way past his prime. But again, this guy, and the other thing is I've seen this guy fight a guy that had no fights for and he got dropped. And he got back up. So he knows how to take a punch. He's been hurt before. But man, oh man, what a waste of talent to not be in a big show. And now he has signed with Brave FC and he won that open weight Grand Prix. So he is getting exposure. But man, I'd like to see this guy. Love to see him in the UFC. Get in there and put some great fights on. And check him out, folks. I've edited out this whole list today. He'd probably be the most experienced guy. I know he's only got 9 fights, but with that hand-to-hand combat, the judo background, it's the kind of guy who's been fighting his whole life, and he's still a beast. And he's probably, he's probably in his prime now, as good as he's going to get. So at 30 years old, so hopefully he gets a second shot. Okay, next on the list is Ivan Erslan. 28 years old, 6'2", 205, fights out of Croatia. American top team, Zagreb with Igor Glazkov. 8 wins, no losses, 1 no contest, 4 knockouts, 1 submission. He had a weird no contest. I see him get knocked out, but for some reason, that fight got changed to a no contest. Key wins, 9-5, Darwin Rodriguez, Bellator veteran Roger Carroll, and 11-2, Tony Makulev. One video, I believe, in the section below. Just want to give Ivan a quick shout out. He's fast, aggressive, Pretty fun to watch. He finishes fights, quick hands, powerful right hand, good low kick, and pretty decent ground and pound. He had some nice wins in his career. Again, I seen him get knocked out by Bruno Brasic, who's a former Western Virginia linebacker. I'm not sure if he got tested, if Bruno got tested for steroids or something, but they called the fight a no contest. But he got a great record at light heavyweight. He's undefeated in 8 fights with the 5 stoppages. So we're looking for guys in this division. If you got some kind of decent record, well, hey, you can get caught pretty quick. Next on the list, Kaloyan Kolev, 29 years old, 6'2", 205, 10 wins, no losses, 7 knockouts, 1 submission. Team Real Pain out of Bulgaria. Key wins 27-12, Cayman Georgie, and 6-2, Felix Palani. 8 first-round finishes. He's fought at heavyweight. He's fought at light heavyweight. Multiple national Bulgarian judo medalist. I believe had a pretty decent amateur career as well. Relatively untested as far as opponents are concerned. This guy's a brawler. Hard punches and ground and pound. Good takedown and slams. Seems to be pretty comfortable on his feet for the most part. I'd like to see him get a tougher opponent, but nonetheless, a guy I want to talk about really quick is Kaloyan Kolev. Please check him out. Again, for all these guys too, all these fighters in today's video, folks, don't be afraid to check them out on Facebook. Check out their Instagram, their Twitter. Hit these guys up. All the support helps them. Next on the list. Again, most of the guys, the limit for age, most of the guys in these videos, it's usually, we talk about guys from 18 up to 30. Once you get past 30, then you're more of a guy that's ready, not so much a prospect. But the next guy on the list is Artur Aliskerov, 30 years old, 6'1", 205, fights out of Russia. 8 wins, no losses, 2 knockouts, 1 submission. Key wins, Dmitry Minikov, 4-1, 7-2, Sergey Pogadiov, and 9-6, Nikolai Rachlik. What can I say about him? Big, strong, physical athlete. Good fighter, nice low kicks. Pretty loose on his feet. Good smothering wrestling and takedowns. Good ground and pound. That's one of, you can really tell this guy's base is wrestling. Gas tank is the big question. He seems to start off really quick and he does tire out. But again, he finds ways to win fights. In this division, again, it's great to see so many undefeated fighters. At 30 years of age, you know, really the time is now for him. So let's see him get 1 or 2 more fights at the most. And then please, somebody give him a call because this guy, he deserves a shot. All right, moving on. And this is something new I started this year. We've seen it in one of the previous videos, but we're going to talk about an incredible amateur. And I really like the amateur scene now, the IMMAF, WMMA, World Championships, and all that kind of stuff. We see some great fighters by the time they turn pro. Murtaza Talha Ali, 24 years old. I got him at 6'1". Not sure if he's a little taller than that. 205, 12-0 as an amateur, 5 knockouts, 1 sub. KHK, coached by the great Eldarov, of course, a prospect we talked about in the welterweight division a few months back, maybe a few weeks back, sorry. Key wins, Magomedkhan Yarogiev, who's a beast in his own right. Very successful amateur that you may see in the pros pretty soon. And a Swede that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, Anton Turkalj, another beast prospect. Check out the video section below. I put 3 or 4 fights there. This guy finishes fights even in the amateur ranks. And again, I'm really starting to like this amateur IMMAF organization. Tons and tons of great fighters. By the time they get to pro, they're miles ahead of their opponents. And Murtaza's a beast. Undefeated, 2017 IMMAF World Championship. I believe he was injured for 2018, and in 19 he came back again and won the World Championship. 2018 European champ. 2020 a recent Oceania champ. He's a smaller light heavyweight, but a beast. Good wrestling, takedowns, ground and pound. His technique is solid. Good grappling, experience, and he's got a wonderful team around him. Again, maybe this guy at some point could cut to 185. Not sure. He's a pretty thick guy. And again, comes from a great team. Extremely good-looking prospect. I look forward to seeing this guy turn pro. I don't know when that's going to happen. Next on the list, Anton Turkalj. 23 years old, 6'4", 205, 4 wins, no losses, 3 knockouts, 1 submission. Also, a very good amateur successful career fighting out of Sweden. GGB, good sized. Swede, 6-0, 4-0, 3 knockouts, 1 submission again. Key wins, 6-2, Felix Palani. And the rest of his opponents, for the most part, have been very low level. As far as the pro ranks go, I believe he's got a fight coming up against huge light heavyweight Thomas Noreno, who's 6'7", undefeated. I don't know how that guy's not a heavyweight, but some are calling him the next coming of Alex Gustafsson. Big, 6'4", strong, athletic. The UFC will gobble up the opportunity to sign this guy. I'd like to see him get a few more fights first. Again, he's athletic. He's got good ground and pound. He's got heavy hands. He's got knockout power. Extensive MMA record with lots of wins and many fights against some great opponents before turning pro. He's shown that he can submit guys from a variety of different chokes. Lots of KOs and TKOs in the amateurs. An interesting prospect to say the least. I'd prefer to see him, like, he's only 4-0 as a pro, so I'd like to see him maybe get at least 3 or 4 more fights before he comes to the UFC or Bellator or ONE FC. But I really feel Sweden is an area, a market the UFC wants to keep a grip on and even get bigger. So I really see the UFC going after this guy. Great looking prospect, big strong kid. Next on the list, Michał Bobrowski, 24 years old, 6'3", 205. Not a physically big guy. He's very long, but fights out of Poland. Skikoli walking Drawali with Thomas Jural, association. 8 wins, no losses, 2 knockouts, 3 submissions. Key wins. Very popular KSW and Olympic strongman. Velocity was 8-1. 18-13, Vitor Nobrega, 11-6, Milos Pastrak. Check out the video section. I believe I have a couple of videos of him. Again, not a physically huge guy, but he's really long for the division at 6'4". Sorry, 6'3". He hasn't fought in a year and a half, so I'm not sure what's been up, if he's been injured or what the case may be. But he's not flashy. He finds ways to win fights. Really grinds them out, scrambles well. Decent wrestling and ground and pound, and somewhat comfortable on the feet. And I haven't seen a whole lot of footage on him, but he does seem to have pretty good variety in his game, decent IQ. And I look forward to seeing him make his return against some tougher competition. He's definitely a guy that the KSW would gulp up pretty quick, but it'd be good to see him come to the UFC. Next on the list, Shamil Akhmedov, 29 years old, 6'2", 205. 29 years old, 6-0, 2 knockouts, fighting at the Russia Creek Post Fight Club. 16-4, key win over Leandro Silva, who was a veteran of the Dana White Contender Series. 11-7, Vasily Babic, and 11-7, Maxim Mikitiev. Olympic Russian team wrestling. That alone gets the guy on the list. Hasn't fought in close to 2 years. Again, not sure what's happened there, if it's an injury or what the case may be. But again, with his wrestling background, that alone makes him a threat to anybody. Gas tank issues. He does seem to tire out in the later rounds in his fights. But again, great takedown, smothering offense, ground and pound. He really wears his opponents out. He hasn't fought cans. He fought good guys. And again, looks like he could fight at middleweight. He looks like a small light heavyweight, but I sure like to see him back. I mean, at 29 now, the clock is ticking. Hopefully he makes his comeback and we see him again soon. Next on the list, going back to Poland, Łukasz Sudolski, Berserker's team. With some big KSW names in that team like Michael Matera and Karl Baydorf. 26, 6'4", 205, 6 wins, 4 knockouts, 2 submissions. Key wins, most of his opponents are around a 500 record with lots of experience, just not a lot of wins. He does have a tough fight coming up against another unbeaten Russian prospect, Aaron Abdullayev, who's 5-0. The quick on Łukasz as he finishes fights. He comes out guns a-blazing, hard punches, low kicks, ground and pound. I see him bounce back in a fight after getting dropped, so he's got that experience. Decent takedowns. I'd say he's a real candidate to get picked up by the KSW. I'd like to see him enter against a decent opponent to see how he does in some tougher competition. But again, anytime you see a guy in this division that's got a decent record, you gain interest pretty quick because we don't have the abundance like we do in some of the lower divisions. Next on the list, this is another recently turned pro, excellent amateur I want to talk about. Igor Glazkov, 21 years old, 5'10", 205. Not a big light heavyweight. I really see him moving down to 185 as he gets older, fighting out of Russia. Pat's D, that's his management with the likes of Eddie Alvarez, Roman Kopylov. 2 wins, no losses. Extensive amateur career, very extensive. 1 knockout, 1 submission. He did have the 1 amateur loss to Magomedkhan Yarogiev, who's a beast, who you may see in the very near future. But I decided to put Glazkov on this list because he's only 21. Both pro wins came against lower level competition, but he beat some great fighters at amateur. Check out the section below. Another outstanding Russian amateur fighter. I'm a big fan again of the IMMAF. Strong wrestling. He's being labeled as Russia's next prodigy. Great amateur career. He's the youth 93 kilogram wrestling champ. IMMAF Unified World Championship gold medalist. Pro debut by knockout. Very small again for light heavyweight. Eventually he's got to move down because he's fighting way larger guys. That classic, very technical and clean looking wrestling. Good takedowns, transitions well, and great ground and pound. This guy, you know, he finishes fights. And I really become, it's guys like this that are really starting to draw me to this amateur ranks. And some of these big world tournaments are great to watch. So Igor Glazkov, remember the name, just 21. Next guy we're going to talk about. Sergey Annalen, Russian fighter, Golden Team, very huge D team, 24 years old, 6 feet 205, 8 wins, no losses, 3 knockouts, 4 submissions, very low level, low experience competition, undefeated, relatively young, and he finishes fights. He's not tall, but he's a pretty thick light heavyweight. He could probably lose some weight, probably even see him cut down to, I mean, he looks pretty thick to cut down to middleweight, but it's probably possible. I believe he's fought some heavyweights before as well. Wrestling, ground and pound. The gas tank portion is the big question for him. Stronger competition would be nice to see, but he's fun to watch. He comes out and he brawls, he wrestles, he punches, he puts it on guys. Again, I'd like to see him step up and fight a tougher guy, but every time I've seen the fight, I'm entertained. And the last guy we're going to talk about is Magomedkhan Yarogiev, fighting out of Russia. Nart is a huge fight team, 25 years old, 6'2", 205, 4 wins, no losses, 3 submissions. Topology has him at 4-1, but that loss was actually an amateur loss, not a professional loss. Key wins 4-2, Dazit Beryaziev, 12-9, Ivan Lukin, 6-2, Anzur Shikamanov. So he's beat some decent opponents. He fights out of the Bearcoot Young Eagles, part of the ACA organization. So that, again, if you're fighting there, you're going to get tough fights. I like watching him. He's very under the radar, and again, it's a great way to close this video out. Another good, young, big Russian light heavyweight prospect. Very athletic, very comfortable on his feet. Good takedown defense, good wrestling, and striking's decent, well-rounded. The submission game is where he's most impressive, with 3 of his 4 victories coming by submission. Again, another great Russian prospect with a good amateur background. He's one of many that we're seeing that's trending right now. I'd say another 2 or 3 fights, you know, and he'd be a good prospect for any bigger organization. And again, in that ACA, he's going to get tough fights if he stays there, nonetheless. So that's it, folks. This one has been a very quick video compared to the other 4 we've done. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys liked the video. Hit the like button, subscribe. Hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and that goes for all the fighters mentioned as well. That puts us at 5 videos complete. We're over halfway done now, the 2020 Prospect Series. It's been great so far. Next on the list, I think we may do the heavyweights next. And I would say we're probably looking at about 2 weeks for that one to come out. For the most part, the group is put together, but of course we gotta pull that video together. It's gonna take a couple weeks. But again, thanks for watching, and really having a blast meeting lots of fighters this year. And look forward to the next video, part 6, which will be out in a couple weeks, folks. Take care.